everybody, this is Heather Sides. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Spokane, Washington. Come to you live every Wednesday night with 3 project ideas. They're typically cards, but sometimes I go outside of that box. I have 3 fun cards tonight for you with some new products that we came out with our new annual catalog that just went live in May this month. So if you don't have a demonstrator that you are currently working with and would like a copy of that catalog, be sure to send me an email or send me a message here on Facebook and let me know and give me your mailing address, and I would be happy to put one in the mail to you. So welcome, welcome. If you're new, I am so glad you chose to join us tonight, and if you are returning, thank you for coming back. I'm trying to think if I've got any great news to tell you this week. There's not a whole lot going on, just the usual stuff. Now, last week I did mention trying to talk my son into stamping with me one of these weeks, and he's not totally averse to the idea. And in fact, he seems almost kind of excited about it. So I showed him your comments from last week when you all said, oh, I think that, sounds like a great idea. You should have him do it. And so it kind of got him built up and built up and built up. And then I thought he was going to do it. And then today he's like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to do it this week. So I need you guys to all give him lots of love this week and comments about how much you want him to join us next week, because maybe we can get him to do it next week. I know he'd have fun with it, and he even knows he'd have fun with it. I think we just have to kind of give him a little bit of a push in that direction. So anyway, those of you who've been here before know, I love it when you guys contribute to the conversation that we're having. If you are watching live, feel free to be asking me questions, giving me suggestions, making comments, talk to one another, answer each other's questions, any of that kind of stuff. Slowly but surely, we're building a nice little community here, and that's the kind of thing that does that. Now, to encourage that kind of participation, I give I give a prize every week. I do a drawing for everybody who leaves a comment in the comment section, and pull a name at random right before I go live the following week. Now, if you are the kind of person that maybe you don't want to participate in the conversation too much, you like to sit back and watch, I get that. Then just say hello. Tell me where you're from. I love to hear where people are from. And just that simple comment will still get your name in the drawing for the prize that I award the following week. And if you're watching this on a replay, either here on Facebook or on YouTube, still leave comment, ask me questions, give suggestions, any of that kind of stuff. Because the reason I do the drawing next week, right before I go live, rather than at the end of this video, is because then the people who watch on replay can participate in that little contest there. So leave a comment, participate in conversation, whatever level you're comfortable with, and your name will go into the drawing for next week's prize. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera around. We're going to get started. We will start by awarding the prize from last week's conversations, and then we'll get going on our cards. How's that sound? Okay, hang on. Okay, getting everything all turned around here. Yay, Joyce, you made it. Okay, let's see. Get my camera all adjusted. And I forgot to check and make sure I can see this on my monitor so that I can see your comments. So give me just a moment to get there. Oh, it looks like I can, so that's good. Oh. But I can also hear me too, and I didn't want that. So let's see here. What do I need to do to straighten this up just a little bit? Because I am just slightly crooked. This might be as good as it gets though, folks, and I will have to accept that. Okay. You know how it just bugs me and I can't handle it, but you know what? One of these days I'm going to have to grow up. I'm not going to rush into that, but I may just have to grow up one of these days. So let's see here. Twist that a little bit. Let's see who all we have here so far today. It looks like Marcia's here, Judy, Robin, Xana. Oh, Xana, you haven't been on for a while. Probably because it's 2 a.m. where you are, but it's good to see you again. Let's see. We've got Nancy's here. Kathy's here. Let's see. Who else have we got here? Looks like so far I've covered. Nell just joined us. All right. Oh, good. You got your prize in the mail today. Good. I was going to ask if you showed up tonight. I was going to ask you if you got that. So that's awesome. Hey, Colleen, welcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our drawing for last week's conversation. And you know what? I'm just going to pull this back just a tiny little bit. There we go. I want you guys to be able to see most of my pad down here so that you can see what I'm doing. So I've got another little pack like this that I put together. This week's winner is Marcia Culbert. I know she joins us pretty regularly, and she has won in the past as well. So Marcia, I have your address already. I'll get this popped in the mail to you. Congratulations. Okay, so the first card we're going to make tonight, I'm using the Good Feelings stamp set. I really do like this set. I like big sentiments like this because you can make a really cute card pretty quickly because you don't have to do a whole lot to decorate. Then I also am using the Scalloped Contours dies, and you'll see what I'm going to be doing with I'm doing something kind of different with this outer frame right here. So let's put these aside and we will get going on this week's card. Okay, so this card is using the Countryside in Designer Series paper. I showed it to you last week and I am in love with it. It is, I think I might have mentioned this last week, but I think it is my favorite of the new DSPs. I love the colors. I think it's pretty, it's fun. There's just all sorts of really great things about it. I love it. So this card, of course, we've got our matching envelope. And then this is the front. And then this is the inside. See what I did with that frame? I just used a portion of it to decorate the inside of my card. You know how I like to decorate the inside of my cards. So let's set this aside for the moment and let's get going to decorate. Of course, we'll start by decorating our envelope. And for this, I just take a piece of the Designer Series paper. It's 2.5 inches by 6 inches. It's just slightly bigger than what I actually need. And I like to do it that way because then I don't have to be quite so precise about getting everything to line up perfectly to make sure that it fits. And that saves time as well because, you know, when you're having to line up perfectly, you kind of slow down to make sure you do it right. And yeah, I'm not one that likes slowing down. Okay, so a little bit of glue, doesn't take a whole lot. I might actually have a little too much on there. Now, one thing to remember when you're putting your Designer Series paper on your envelope flap, if it has an image that's directional, like in this case, it's birds, make sure they're right side up. Many, many, many times I have put envelope flaps on upside down, and then in this case, my birds are falling on their heads. So just check, remember to check for that. Now slide this around till I get it right where I want it. I get my edge of my paper and my envelope to line right up, and then make sure that I press it down well. Got a little bit of glue here, and as you know, I have a handy dandy little adhesive eraser that'll give that a chance to dry just a little bit, and then I can take my adhesive eraser and just erase that glue off. It is not a Stampin' Up! Product, but you can get it on Amazon for just a couple of bucks. So now I'm trimming around the envelope flap, and if you cut off a little bit of your envelope, not a big deal, it happens. And it really, it's not that noticeable. I mean, if you cut off a huge chunk, it would be maybe. But if you do just a little bit, it's not really noticeable. Okay. And there we go. Got the envelope done. Easy peasy. Okay, now our card base is 1/2 of a sheet of cardstock, and what I've done is I cut it lengthwise, so it's 4 1/4 inches wide, it's 11 inches long, and I've scored it in the middle at 5 1/2 inches. So let's go ahead and fold that and take my bone folder to give myself a nice sharp edge, just like so. Now let's go ahead and do the inside first. So I've got a piece of basic white cardstock here. It is 4 inches wide. It's 5 1/4 inches long. And then I also have this little strip. All I did is I cut myself a strip that was about 1/2 inch long. And then I took this frame, this outer frame, and I lined it up against that. So it actually ended up cutting the whole thing because the strip I had was extra long. As you can see, it got those rounded edges, which I think would be cool if my paper was long enough for that. Like if I put it this way, you could see those edges. But I'm not doing that. It still looks cool. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to line it up like that, and then I'll trim off the extra. So a little bit of my glue here. I'm going to put on my glasses. You know, why I don't just start with my glasses on, I don't know. But yeah, I always end up putting them on. You know, Kathy, that is a great idea. I don't know if you guys saw it in the comments. Kathy suggested, she said she likes to use the big sentiments on the inside of her card, and she hadn't thought about doing it on the outside, which is funny because I hadn't thought about doing it on the inside of my card. Especially if you are not one who likes to really handwrite much inside the card. It's a great way to fill up that space, so you don't have to. So great idea. My handwriting is kind of big, and I tend to write big, so I tend to try to leave a little more open space just to accommodate all of my writing. Jackson, everyone's sad that you're not joining us.
Maybe next week.
He says maybe next week. I'll just keep harassing him all week long. Okay, so I've trimmed off the extra there. Let's go ahead and throw that in my little desk side garbage can. And now we're just going to glue this to the inside of our card. Easy, easy, easy. As you know, I like to glue stuff down right away so I don't lose it. But also, because when you've got a lot of different pieces just kind of floating around, it's a little harder to keep track of what you're doing. And it can also be a little overwhelming. So when you immediately put pieces where they belong, it just makes things feel a little bit more manageable. So especially if you're a new stamper, I do recommend doing that because if you're overwhelmed, you're not going to have as much fun. Okay, so now moving to the front of the card, I have another piece of the basic white. It's the same measurement as my inside piece. It's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I have a piece of the designer series paper. This matches the envelope flap that we did with the birds. And Jackson did help me pick out the paper. I was torn. There was one with foxes on it, one with bunnies on it, and then this one with the birds. And I asked him, I said, okay, this is the sentiment I want to use. Which paper do you think I should use? And it was really funny because his line of thinking was exactly like mine. And he said, you know, I like the bunnies a little bit better, I think, as far as just which paper I like, which design I like. He said, but when I see that sentiment, the sending sunshine and good feelings your way, I hear birds. So it's just funny to me that he and I kind of have the same line of thinking on that. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the front of my card. I don't have to wrap any ribbon around it or anything like that, so I might as well go ahead and put it into place. So right here. Okay. Oh, and remember, make sure it's right side up. You think I'm joking, but I can't tell you the number of times I've made upside down cards. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to take this piece of basic white, and it is 2 3/4, I think. Oh, no, it is 2 5/8. 2 5/8 by 3 7/8. 2 5/8, 3 7/8. And I made a little mat for it that's just 1/8 of an inch bigger, so it's 2 3/4 by 4. I'm going to get out, I'm using the Misty Moonlight ink. This is a color that was one of our ink colors a couple years ago, and it was retired, and they brought it back when they did our color refresh this year. Okay, so ink up your stamp, and then line this up. Now I kind of cut this close as far as size, so I have to really look at it, make sure I'm lining it up right. Make sure you give it good pressure everywhere so that it's even, and don't rock your stamp or you end up getting these little edges that got ink on them on your paper. I did that a few times last night as well. Okay, let's see here. Cleaning off my stamp really quick. Oops. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is put the ink away before I, lay down in it. And I have this shimmery ribbon. This actually came out last year with last year's new in colors, and it comes in all 5 of that family of in colors. And I have 2 strips here. We're going to wrap it around, and at this point it doesn't really matter how high or low you do it. Just have it somewhere that that it comfortably stays on for you, because you can slide it into place when you're all done. So I have 2, and I'm just going to tie a regular bow. I try to pull it a little bit tight, because when I do the bow, I do end up loosening it a little bit by accident. So then that way it's not too loose on there once the bow's created. So now I just kind of fiddle with my loops until they're the size that I want them. And we'll trim the tails in a minute, but for now I'm just going to focus on those loops. And I keep pulling it tight, and then I have to resize my loops, because pulling it tight makes the loops a little big again. Okay, I think this is going to be okay like this. And I do like to fan out my loops a little bit. It just adds a little fullness to your bow, especially when you have a really thin ribbon like this. And this ribbon's only like 1/8 of an inch. So okay. And let's see, I'm going to want this to be down right about here. So let's go ahead and trim this just a little bit. And I'm doing it at an angle. Oops, guess that was a little much of an angle, wasn't it? Okay. That went a lot faster than it did last night. I had to fiddle with that silly thing for a long time last night. Okay, now, except for I think this looks like this side's a little bit long, so we're going to trim it down. And this is where we end up playing the game where, we trim one side just a little too much, and now we have to trim the other side to bring it even. And yeah, I do that. I do it with my bangs all the time, and then I end up practically bald. Anybody else do that? It's not so much that I'm brave and cut my own bangs, it's that I'm cheap and I cut my own bangs. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of my snail adhesive here. Make sure I've got it all there. And I'm going to put it on this piece here of, this is Balmy Blue. There we go. Look at that. And then what I did is I cut one of those frames with a piece of vellum. The thing I like about using vellum in the way that we're going to use it tonight is it does add a little shape, a little character to the card because of like this scallopy edge, but it's not so bold that it's detracting from this amazing DSP that I love so much. So vellum is a great way to add some layers. Hey Teresa, welcome. It's a great way to add some layers without adding distraction to your card. Okay, so now I'm going to just glue these pieces together. Try to get it on there straight. And then what I'm going to do is I have a piece of my foam adhesive sheets. So they come in sheets like this that are 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches, and I think you get 6 in a packet. I love these. They're just nice and quick and easy. They do the exact same thing that your dimensionals do. It's just like I said, it's quick and easy because you're only peeling the back off of one piece versus a bunch, because I do tend to add a lot of dimensionals when I use them. So one thing you want to watch for though is it is very, very adhesive. it's pretty unforgiving. So you want to make sure you're laying this down exactly where you want it before you really lay it down. So let's see here. I think that looks pretty good. And there we go. Card number 1 is done. Pretty easy, huh? So, got that one all finished. We'll set that aside and get going on card number 2 after I clean up my little mess here. Okay, so card number 2, we're going to use the Sweetest Cherries stamp set. I really like this. I think it's a fun set. I love the font. And then it also uses the bold, bright and beautiful designer series paper. Again, I used this last week as well. It's got lots of fun colors and prints. I really like this set. I think, or this designer series paper. And I think it's going to be a big seller this year. Okay, let me show you the card we're going to make. Here we go. And I'm really highlighting our lemon lime twist designer series, or color of cardstock. It's a new color, sort of. It is part of our new color refresh this year, but it also was one of the in colors brought out several years ago, retired, and now they're bringing it back. Hey, Susie, welcome for joining us. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I have a hard time with words sometimes. Bear with me. So anyway, so here's the card we're going to make. Here's the inside. Oh, even a little piece of garbage for free. Yay. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started on our card. And of course, the first thing we're going to do is our envelope. It's a bit of glue. There we go. I'm just dragging it along there. I do not let my applicator leave my paper. I drag it along. That does help keep me from putting too much glue on. Of course, you still can put too much glue on, of course, but it does help. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, so now I'm just going to line this up. Get the top of the paper, the top of the envelope to match. And then rub that. There we go. And find my snips here. Trim off the extra. I just love this paper. I think it's so much fun. It coordinates with so many of our new colors this year. Actually, no, I was about to lie to you, so never mind. I was going to say I think it's intended to color coordinate with our new in colors, but some of the colors on here are not in colors. So, but they are new this year. New in some capacity, even if they are colors that are returning. Okay, so our envelope is done. Hey, Marcia, welcome. You were our big winner tonight. And I, of course, have your address on file, so you don't need to send me anything. Okay, so our card base is just your standard card base, half of a sheet of cardstock. It's 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So let's go ahead and fold it, get a nice crisp edge. If I can find my bone folder. Whoops. There we go. Gotta show it who's boss sometimes. Okay, so for the inside, of course, we don't have to do a whole lot as far as, we don't have to put another piece in here because it's already white, so we can write on that. But I don't like to leave the inside of my card naked, so we're going to do a little stamping on the inside of the card. But I also have this piece of scrap paper. I'm having a really tough time using my big girl words tonight to stamp some things that we're going to cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that stamping now as well. So I'm going to get out all the pieces of the cherry. Okay, I think I got them all. And the colors that we're going to use the Lemon Lime Twist, and we're going to use Berry Burst. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and stamp. had a little piece of my leaf. I need to get more of the little tiny blocks. I didn't have enough. So I just put two of the really tiny stamps on one block, and then that way I can just ink up one side when I just want to use the one stamp, and then flip it around and ink up the other side. Okay, so now ink up my stamp, and I'm going to put a little cherry right here in the corner, just like so. And then I'm also going to put one right about, well, let's put it right about here on this piece. Clean off my stamp. And then I'm going to take my green, my lemon lime twist. I'm going to leave this open for just a moment because I'm going to use it, but I want to get this stamped on here first. So my lemon lime twist and the word sweet. There we go. And now what I'm going to do, set this aside for a moment, bring back my berry burst, and then I have this little stamp that says "Life Is," and I'm going to stamp it or color it, ink it with the berry burst, and I'm just going to put it right here in the corner of the S like that. And now I'm going to put it away because you know what I will probably do if I don't. Oh, thank you for sharing, Marcia. Okay, so I'm going to bring back my lemon lime twist, and now I'm going to finish out the cherry. I've got my stems, and I do like that these are the photopolymer stamps because then I can see where I'm stamping to make sure that I line up that stem right where I want it. And then I've got my leaf here, and I'm going to put one right there, one right there, and then I've got this stamp is the little veins in the leaf. There we go. There. Now, one more thing I want to do to the piece, or to the inside of our card. I'm going to set this aside for the moment. And I have this little strip of our designer series paper, and I'm going to use the green side, and I'm just going to glue it on here just like this. So I'm going to have a little bit of a white edge on the side, and it's going to overlap the cherry just a little bit. So a little line of glue here. And then line this up. With the liquid glue, if you lay it down and it's just not quite straight, your margins aren't even, whatever, you still have a little time before the glue gets tacky that you can wiggle your paper around just a little bit to get it positioned where you want it. Now I'm going to cut off those extra little bits on the end, and now the inside of our card is done. When I made this one last night, it was really funny. I got all done with the inside and then realized I'd stamped it on the outside of the card. Fortunately, I hadn't done anything else yet, so I was able to just flip the card around like that, and now it made it the inside of the card, but it was pretty funny. Okay, so now I'm going to take my little snips here, and I'm going to fussy cut these pieces. Now, a tip that I have given you guys before when it comes to fussy cutting is to cut off some of the extra paper that you have. It just gets in the way, and it does make it a little harder to fussy cut because you're dealing with all this extra paper. So you can see I trimmed it down, and now I'm just going to start going around the word. Remember to move your paper, not your scissors. Okay. Just like this. Oh, I have a sad tale of woe to tell you guys. So my car has been having issues, and it's kind of been having them for a while. But I haven't done anything about it for a couple reasons. One of which is I have a really fantastic mechanic guy who does the work out of his garage. Super sweet guy, young family, and I love supporting, when somebody has their own business and they're trying to take care of their family. I really do try to support that if I can, and I trust him completely. I mean, there's been times that he changes my oil for me, and then doesn't want me to, when I say, okay, well, what do I owe you? He tells me an amount that's like $5 more than what the supplies cost him. Of course, I pay him more than that. But I mean, that just tells you kind of the integrity this guy has. And so when he tells me how much something is going to cost, I completely trust that he's not trying to pull one over on me. And I am the kind of person, unfortunately, you could easily pull one over on me because I know nothing about cars. So anyway, I finally got my car in for him to look at, and we thought what it was is the anti-skid, the anti-lock brake thing, sensor. My son did some checking on the internet with what was happening and what it could possibly be, and it made it sound like what the problem was is that the sensor, either the wiring was going bad, or even it said the sensor could just be dirty, anything like that. But that we thought that maybe it was that sensor, and that's what was causing the problem. What would happen is you'd be driving along, and then all of a sudden my car would just give up. And it wouldn't even lurch or anything like that. It's just the power would shut off and it would slowly die, which was annoying. And it would typically start back up kind of slowly, but it would start right back up. But about a week ago, Jackson, my son, was driving it, and it did that in the middle of an intersection, and some guy almost T-boned him. So I said, okay, that's it. We've got to get it in. Took it in, thinking, okay, this is probably the problem. And Jackson had done some looking. It looked like it was going to be about $80 for the part. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to spend this money right now, but I also don't want him to die in an intersection. So not that I want him to die somewhere else. But anyway, thinking that's what it would be. Oh no, it turns out my engine is completely shot. And the thing is, I just bought my car a little over a year ago, so I'm still upside down in the loan. I can't afford to, I can't trade it in, obviously, with being upside down in the loan, and can't really afford right now the down payment I'd need for a new car, blah, 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 So have to come up with the money for a brand new engine for my car. Not happy about that. So buy lots of stamps, people. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. Buy lots of stamps. Anyway, so yeah, that was my big excitement this week. My mom has very graciously loaned me the use of her car. She and my dad hardly ever go anywhere. When they do, they typically go places together. So she's loaned me her car for the short term till I get my car back. And he's hoping to have it back to me by before he leaves for his Memorial Day camping weekend. So I won't have to have my mom's car for too long, which is good because the more Jackson drives it, the more he's falling in love with it, which decreases the chances of him willingly giving it back to her. Okay, so I've got my little cherry all cut out. There we go. As you can see, that was pretty easy to cut. Now, what I'm going to do is just set these aside till I'm ready for them. Now, I already cut these, but I want to show you what I did here. I had a piece of our Designer Series paper. I want to get it to line up so you can see this here. Okay, so this piece here, I cut a piece that was just, let me think here because it wasn't my usual, because I cut it a little smaller than usual. It was, I should have lined it up this way so I could see the measurements on my paper. Hang on here. So this one was 3 5/8 by, what measurement did I go this way? So it was 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And this is the mat that I used with our lemon lime twist. The mat is my normal 4 by 5 1/4. And so I did it so I just wanted a little bit bigger mat around the edge to really showcase this paper. So then you lay it out like this, right? So that it's just a little bit different. You've got the long ones and the short ones opposite, but then flip over. I flipped over the little ones. And now you're showcasing both sides of your DSP. Isn't that fun? Now, when you cut your paper, sometimes you get this little lip on the back side from cutting it. So I just take my bone folder and flatten that out. That gets rid of that lip. And now we're just going to glue those pieces down on our lemon lime twist. So I'm just getting a little bit of my snail adhesive here. I think that looks about right. And I also, the reason it wasn't my normal size to cut it, in addition to wanting a little bit bigger margin on the outside here, I also wanted to make sure to leave room for the gap on the inside. So now I'm just going to line that up just like that. Looks like this one might be a tiny bit crooked. So I'm just going to lift it up a little bit so that I can straighten it back out. Oops, now I got it crooked in the other direction. There, I think that looks good. Just get it to flatten back out a little bit there. And now I'm going to put these little pieces in the corners there, just like that. Easy way to, it's such an easy way to decorate your front of your card without having to use, you know, if you don't have a whole lot of different designer series papers, remember you have twice as many as you think because you've got the back side of each one. So you can do something like this. Trying to do it along the edge there. There we go. And now I'm going to line this one up this way. I want to get it to make sure that it matches up along this side and that side. Can you guess? Can you guess that my neighbor is outside with their dog? Hey, Teresa, welcome. You know, Lucy, as you can see, her bark collar works really, really well. I was mailing out some packages last week, and I saw that a while back you won, Teresa, you won one of my weekly drawings, but I don't have your mailing address. And usually after a while, if I haven't heard back from somebody, I recycle it, but I haven't recycled that yet. So if you send me your mailing address either at stamphappenings@gmail.com or in a private message here on Facebook, I'll mail it out to you. Okay, so let's go ahead now. We're going to glue this down onto the front of our card. Like this. Line it up so that your margins are relatively the same and it's straight-ish. Remember, we aim for ish, not perfection. And now I have these cute little pieces that I'm going to I'm going to put some dimensionals on here. Maybe. So let's see, we've got the cherry. And I don't want that little bit of the stem to be unsupported. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my snips and I'm just going to cut a tiny little bit off the edge here. This is just barely wide enough that I'll be able to put it down on that stem to give the stem a little bit of support. Make sure it's not too wide. Oh, good. It's just about perfect. Well, it might be a little bit too wide, but they come back off pretty easily if you haven't pushed them down hard yet. You know, I'm going to trim that down just a teeny, teeny, tiny bit. There we go. I bet you that works. Okay. There. Look at that. Okay, now we're going to put some here on the back of my word sweet. I'm just going to cut this one down. We have mini dimensionals that you could use as well. The one thing is I have noticed sometimes there's a difference in the thickness of the different dimensional products. And so you don't really want to mix and match on one particular piece because you do want it to kind of be about the same. So I just cut down one of the bigger ones for this. Okay, let's see. I kind of want to have a little bit on this edge here. Maybe a little bit in that little section there. You know me, I go crazy with the dimensionals. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, right? Okay, so now I'm just going to peel off all the backs. Doing this off screen because my little garbage is off to the side of my desk. Okay, and actually, I think I want to wait to lay it down until I've laid down the cherry because I want to line it up to make sure the space works, the spacing works. Okay. So now I'm just going to put my cherry right about here in the center of this little rectangle, just like so. And now I can take this and say, okay, where does it look best to line it up? Right about there. And then I'm going to take some of our 2023 to 2025 in color dots, and I'm going to put a few on there just to fill up some of that empty space that's here. I love these dots. They're so shimmery and pretty, and there's some for 3 different sizes with each of the colors from our new in colors this year. So let's see what I did here. Put a couple there. And I just put little ones up here. Now again with your dots, kind of like what I was saying with the dimensionals, if you don't put them down too hard at first, then you can lay them down, and then if you don't like where they are, they're pretty easy to lift to move them, especially if you have a take your pick tool to kind of go under them. Now in this case, it just wants to keep moving away, but you can see at least lifted off the paper out of its position. So there we go. Card number 2. What do you guys think? Isn't that cute? I love the colors. Okay. Put these away, clean up my mess. Okay, so that's a nice surprise, Teresa. Good, I'm glad. Okay. Now this last card, I really love this last card because it is so simple. The simplicity of it is just, I love it. So we're going to use the Go-To Greetings. I love this set because it's got all different sentiments in different fonts and different sizes, and so it's very, very versatile. And then I'm using the Artistically Inked bundle of products. They're not sold as a bundle anymore, but I still refer to it that way because they go together. You've got the stamps and the dies. And then I'm also using my Stylish Shapes dies. You know, you don't necessarily need everything I've just laid out. For example, the card uses one of these banners. You could cut your own banner. You could, you know, there's a lot that you could do. But if you want to make it easy on yourself, then get the dies. Okay, so let me show you this amazing card. Okay, we've got our stamped envelope, and then look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with our envelope, and this one we're actually going to stamp. So I have my handy dandy little piece of scrap paper here that, as you can see, has been well loved over time. And I am using the Very Vanilla envelopes, and I'm going to be using some Very Vanilla cardstock inside. And then I'm also using our Crumb Cake cardstock. So I've got my Crumb Cake ink, and then I'm taking these, get all the pieces out. I've got this flower, I have this leaf, and I have this sentiment. So we're just going to do the flowers and the leaves, of course, on the envelope. So I'm just going to stamp my flowers kind of in random spots around the envelope, like so. And then I'm going to take the leaves, and we're going to just kind of stamp some leaves with our flowers. Get the edges in some places. And I'm trying really hard not to stamp too much, to press down too much on that edge, because it kind of looks funny when you can see that part of the leaf on the flower when you stamp it. I think what works really well is to stamp it and then cut it out with the dies and actually manually place them behind the stamped flower. But of course you can't do that on your envelope. So there we go. There we go, just like so. Maybe get a couple extra little leaves sticking out in some of this empty space there. And now our envelope is done. Okay, now what we're going to do is, I've got my card base. I'm going to set that aside because we're going to still need it here in a moment. It's a standard card base, 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Let's fold her in half. I'm very excited. I am scheduled to get a shipment of new products tomorrow. So next week I'm going to have all sorts of fun new stuff to play with and share with you. Okay, so for the inside of my card, let me show you what I did on the inside here. I just stamped the flower kind of in the corner like that, just to give it a little something. So, ink up my stamp, and I'm just putting it right here in the corner, like that. And then we'll do a couple little leaves here. There. Stamps didn't get very clean there. Can you hear all that sliding around? We have hardwood floors, and Lucy has yet to figure out that the space between the couch and the wall is not that great. And so she jumps off the couch, runs, to try to go down the stairs to go out the door to see the dog in the front yard, only the door never opens, but she crashes into the wall every single time. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue this to the inside of my card now. I just love how simple this card is. Okay, now what we're going to do is I have a piece of basic black, and it is 5 1/4 by 4, and then I have a piece of crumb cake that is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and we can just go ahead and glue that down now. Okay. Now what we're going to do is glue down, careful I don't tear this beautiful die that is just this leaf, or not leaf, but frond, I guess, I don't know. And we want to glue that down. Now, when it's little pieces, really fine pieces like this, it's hard to find spots to put glue on. So I'm going to show you a little trick. This is my silicone mat. Silicone mat is intended to not let the glue adhere to it. So I can put glue on here, and then once it dries, I just rub it and it rolls right off. So I'm going to put a little glue right there. And then I have this sponge dauber. And I do need to replace these every so often because the glue dries in there and it gets yucky. You know what? They're $5 for 5 of them. So, okay, now I'm going to take my frond here, and I am just going to go like this, and I'm putting glue on. Be careful not to put too much glue on because it seeps out through the front with a design like this, and then it's just kind of a pain. But even if every little section of it doesn't have glue on it, enough sections do have glue, it's going to be fine. Now I set this aside, and like I said, when it dries, I'll be able to just rub that, and that's going to roll right off. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, figure out about where I want it. It's kind of flimsy, so it's a little I wouldn't say difficult, it's just maybe a little challenging to just make sure you've got it where you want it. There we go. Now you stay down. Don't make me add more glue to you, because I will, and you won't be happy then. Okay, there we go. Is that amazing? Amazing. Okay, now I have my baker's twine. It's just like the natural. And what I did is I have it twice the length of what I need because I want to do another double bow. So I fold it in half, and then I'm just going to cut. There we go. And I'm going to tie my little bow. Oh, good. I'm glad that was a good tip for you. And of course, we also have our adhesive sheets that you can do, but I always forget to do them, and you have to do them before you die cut before you cut it out. So, and I do use them on here on occasion because I want to remind everybody about them, but I do frequently forget. Okay, so now I'm just going to play with my loops, get them the size that I want them. Well, looky there. Could it be that it's just about perfect on the first try? Wow. Okay, so now I'm just going to trim it because I want all my tails to be the same length. That one looks like it's kind of crazy, doesn't it? There. And now I'm just going to glue it down right there. Oops. This kind of does look a little big. We'll see, now I fiddled with it. Now they're different sizes again. Please hold. There. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my glue dots. These glue dots are great, especially with the baker's twine, because the baker's twine is so fine, and if your glue dot is a little too big to hide behind the knot on your bow, you just fold it up a little bit. Works great. my loops are not the same size. That's a problem for me. So now I'm forced to fiddle with it. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to put it right there. This one is really long, isn't it? Okay, so there. Look at that. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue that down onto the front of my card. Just like this. And now we're going to work on our little sentiment there. So I have this banner that I cut out with the dies, but again, like I said, you know, you've seen me before where I just take a strip of paper and I cut the ends at an angle or something like that. And so you can certainly do that as well. I liked the finished look though of the stitching on the edge of that. And I'm going to use my black Memento ink to do my sentiment. Sticking to the neutral colors here. And now, get this lined up. Now on these little narrow ones, it's kind of hard to make sure it's straight when you have a phone in front of you. See, I've got it kind of crooked, but you know what? I'm going to call it good. I can't handle it. I've got to handle it. I've got to handle that. Remember, we talked about this, Heather, you're going to grow up. Okay, now let's put a few dimensionals on the back. One at each end and then one in the middle to support it so it doesn't sag. Hey Diane, welcome. Okay. Take these off. Wow, we're getting done really early tonight, you guys. Okay, so now I'm just going to put this here. It's going to overlap my little leaf thingy, frond, whatever we decided to call it. And of course it's a little crooked. Going for ish, not perfection. There we go. Ta-da! Oh, but we're not done yet. So then what I did is I took some of my rhinestone basic jewels. Now we have some black matted dots that I use a lot. I really like. But in this case, I wanted something just a little sort of sparkly. So I took my black Stampin' Blend marker, and I did not color enough of them, it looks like. So hang on. I did several last night because I wasn't quite sure how many I was going to put on. So these were left over, but I need one more, it looks like. And I do like to do a couple of coats, so I put it on there. It's alcohol-based ink, so it dries pretty quickly, but I do let it dry before I do the next level of color, the next layer of color, because if you don't, especially when you're on this type of a surface, it'll just push the color around rather than adding another layer. Okay. I think I did 3 layers last night, but it just makes these kind of, I don't know how shiny they look on the camera, but you've just got still a little bit of shine from that rhinestone, but black to fit in with our card. And I tried, several different quantities of these to see what I liked the best, and 3 seemed to be what worked the best. And I tried different sizes, and it's just enough that it gives a little interest without overdoing it. It keeps it very subtle. So there we have card number 3. What do you guys think? Don't you love it? I love this card. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to put away my stuff. We're going to take a secondary peek at everything we made tonight. If you liked what you saw, hey, John, we are just wrapping up because I am like way ahead of the game tonight. So you want to watch the replay because we did some really amazing, fun cards tonight. But if you enjoyed what you saw, I love all the hearts and the thumbs up. Strokes my ego. I'm not joking. I'm not going to lie. But it also tells Facebook and YouTube, hey, people like this, so let's put it out there a little bit more. And it does help me with my business because it just gets me a little more visibility. So I appreciate it when you do that. Another way you can help me is share the video. You never know who on your feed might be interested in trying this out. And of course, you can also support my business by shopping in my online store at heathersides.stampinup.net. I would love to earn your business. There's some great stuff with this new catalog. You're definitely going to want to check it out. Again, if you don't have a demonstrator that you currently work with, and you want a copy of this new catalog, let me know. I am happy to send one to you. You just got to send me your address. You can contact me anytime at at stamphappenings@gmail.com or a private message here on Facebook. And if you do a little shopping tonight or during the month of May, it would help me a lot if you would use this host code. This is how I'm able to continue to provide the videos for free and prizes and things like that. And so it helps me a lot. But if your order is over $150, no judgment. If your order is over $150, please don't use this host code. In that case, you will be getting some free rewards from Stampin' Up! And I want to make sure that you are the one who receives them. So if your order is under $150, please use this host code. If it's over $150, please do not. So let's take a look at the cards that we made tonight. Another reminder is that you need to send Jackson lots and lots of love in the comment section to let him know how badly you want him to stamp with us, so that maybe I can get him to do it next week. Because I think he's just really on the fence. I think he just needs that little prod to stamp with us, and I think it would be a lot of fun. Jackson, for those of you who don't know, is my 23-year-old son who lives with me. So these are the 3 cards we made tonight. I love them all. I just love them all in different ways because they are very different cards. So I hope you guys had a great time tonight. As always, this is the best part of my week. I enjoy spending it with you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it too. And I hope to see you guys next week. Same time, same place, Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time here at facebook.com/stamphappenings. Have a good one, guys.